Spiritual awakening can feel like a curse. Why? As old belief and patterns starts to fall away, we lose our sense of self. This can lead to a feeling of lost, confused, and unsure of who we are anymore. The goals, desires, and interests we used to have are gone now. There is nothing to look forward to each day. At least before spiritual awakening, we had motivation, even if it was based on false belief and societal expectation. For example, we may have this desire to climb the corporate ladder, earn a lot of money, and then retire early. Or we aim to get married, buy a house, and start a family. But now, all these motivation are gone, and we feel like we have lost our sense of purpose and direction in life. This can be incredibly disorienting and even feel like a curse. What's more is, once you see through the illusion of the material world and societal norms, you can't really unsee it. You cannot go back to the past. You cannot live in autopilot anymore. You cannot pretend everything is the same and live your life as per normal. Because now you have a new perspective, a spiritual perspective. Life takes on a deeper meaning. Even if you do the same thing, the same job, it will never feel the same. It can feel so powerless that some people wish that they never had awakened. They would rather be asleep because they think ignorance is bliss. So, what can we do? Does this mean that we are going to be stuck like this forever? Does it mean that we're never going to get back the zest for life? No. You always have to remind yourself that this dark period is only temporary. Once you understand the big picture of why this all happens, you will have a deeper appreciation of where you are right now. First, you need to know that spiritual awakening is not about losing ourselves. It's about shedding the layers of false identities and societal expectations that were never truly us in the first place. It's about letting go of all these things society told us we need and instead discovering who we are at our core. Your ego may cling to the old identity and resist the change, but your soul desires this transformation. Your soul is the one that initiates the awakening process. This might come across as quite jarring to the ear, but stay with me. The universe didn't take everything away from you to make you suffer. The universe takes everything away because when there's nothing left, no external distraction, all you have is your soul. You will have to turn inwards and connect with your soul. That's the only path. Any resistance to this soul connection, any block that is covering up your light, is only going to cause more suffering. You see, spiritual awakening ruins your life so that you can have a new one. We need to shed our old skin to make way for a new version of ourselves. It's like building a new house. You can't just build a new house over the old one. You can't build on a weak foundation. You have to tear down everything and rebuild from scratch. Everything your ego clings to has to go eventually. The old belief that aren't supporting you to the next stage of your journey, the attachment to material and physical stuff, the people or jobs you associate your identity with, they all have to go for you to get to your spiritual core. Some of us will lose everything at once and experience a very intense spiritual awakening. Others will experience several awakenings, each time losing something tied to their ego. However, it doesn't mean that once you lose everything, you can't get them back. You can still have a nice career, a wonderful relationship, and a house. It's just that after spiritual awakening, you're no longer as attached to those things anymore. Your identity is no longer tied to what you have. So whether you have these things or not, it doesn't matter as much. You realize that who you are is the awareness, the observer, and the soul. Yes, you may lose your consciousness from time to time and go back to the egoic perspective, but once you have a glimpse of the spiritual perspective, you have a taste of love, peace, and joy. You can never fully stay in the egoic perspective for long without feeling some kind of pain and suffering. So, what that means is the pain and suffering you are experiencing right now in your spiritual journey it's because you're still looking through the lens of the ego, not the spirit. You still have shadows that needs to be acknowledged and dealt with. The author Kristen Neff writes a lot about self-compassion, and she talked about this thing which I feel applies to spirituality too. It's called the backdraft. Imagine a house burning on the inside. It uses up all the oxygen, and when you open the door, a sudden rush of oxygen into the house can cause an explosion. If you haven't been kind and loving to yourself for a long time, and then suddenly you start feeling love and kindness, it's like the love rushes in, but all the old wounds come rushing out. It can feel rather overwhelming. Same as spirituality, when the light comes in, when you start to get more spiritual energy into your life, all those old wounds, unresolved emotion, and shadows get pushed to the surface. During this phase, you may feel rather depressed, lost, and unmotivated, and that's normal. It might seem as though that you're regressing, but you're actually progressing. Let me explain. Before spiritual awakening, the majority of us stay in this middle range of vibration. We may feel overwhelmed and stressed in our work. We may feel bored and unfulfilled with our daily routines. But we distract and numb ourselves with entertainment, food, and sex so that we never truly feel the pain or discomfort. Or we may have goals that we want to achieve, and sometimes we get what we want and we feel happy for a while. But soon we feel unsatisfied again because we want more. And if we don't get what we want, we may feel impatient and sometimes pessimistic about the future. We may even blame someone else for our misfortune. That's what most people emotional range is. They never get joyful and blissful, but they also never allow themselves to feel depressed or angry. They are in this middle in terms of vibration. After spiritual awakening, you get a taste of what true connection feels like. You experience the bliss, the joy, and the freedom, vibration that you have never experienced before spiritual awakening. But after this period of deep connection with the spiritual realm, things usually get pretty intense. Like all those buried emotion and old wounds start bubbling up. The distraction you used to rely on don't work anymore. It's like your shadow are coming at you at full force, and the pain and overwhelm feels unstoppable. And you realize that there's no way around it. You have to face your darkness head on. From a logical point of view, this feels worse, right? You used to be here in the middle, feeling somewhat okay. Then now you're here, feeling all kind of depressed, apathy, maybe even guilt about the things that you did in the past. Or maybe it's loneliness because you feel that no one really understands you. It's uncomfortable. And of course, you don't want to feel like this. And I get it, you don't want to be here. The thing is, a lot of us get stuck here. We focus so much on our pain and suffering that it's hard to see things from a different perspective. If you just take a step back for a second, zoom out and look at the bigger picture, you'll see how much your vibrational range has expanded. Before a spiritual awakening, your awareness and perspective are pretty limited. You're pretty much stuck in the middle, in a loop of blame, worry, irritation, boredom, and maybe a little happiness here and there. But after spiritual awakening, everything changes. You get access to the whole picture. It's like unlocking all the levels in a game. And here's the thing, you can't have joy, love, and freedom without also experiencing pain and suffering. When you unlock the highest vibration, you also unlock the lowest one. They are like a package deal. You can't have light without darkness. It's just how it works. If you try to stay in a safe middle range to avoid pain, you will block yourself from feeling the lows, but you also miss out on the highs too. True freedom and happiness only comes when you embrace it all, the highs and the lows, and that's what your soul is calling you to. I'm actually grateful for having gone through depression during my first Dark Night of the Soul. If I haven't experienced it myself, I wouldn't really understand what people with depression or anxiety go through. I wouldn't know the kind of thoughts or lies our mind feed us to keep us stuck in that hopeless place. Now, with this awareness, I'm not afraid of the darkness anymore. I'm not afraid of feeling the pain and suffering. When my dad died, I felt the grief, I processed the emotion, and I naturally moved back up the vibrational scale. I know the pain is temporary. What's keeping us stuck in the negative vibration is the mind and its false narrative. With this awareness, I could also help my family process their grief. I sat with them one by one in their pain and suffering, and I have no fear because I've been through that myself. After I've been through my first dark night of the soul, I've been through it two more times. And I just welcome them. I don't resist them anymore. I just surrender to the expansion because I know eventually I will get back up the vibrational scale. I know I still have some resistance and shadow that I need to work with. And once I let them go and process them, I will rise back up. That's the freedom you get to experience after spiritual awakening. You get to move up and down the vibrational scale without fear. With this awareness of the vibrational spectrum, you also know when other people or yourself are faking their vibration. Like when you feel disappointed with someone or feel that socializing is boring, but you try to spiritual bypass with your spiritual knowledge, and say something like, as spiritual being, we all need to be positive and loving to everyone. We need to see everyone in a positive light. Deep down, you know that you're not being genuine. You will feel the gap between what you think you must feel as a spiritual person and what you truly feel inside. And you will feel the disparity, and you will know that you're lying to yourself. Perhaps the biggest curse of spiritual awakening is that we think we have to stay in this high vibrational state all the time. As spiritual people, there's often this pressure to constantly be loved and positive, but this can sometimes feel false and inauthentic. No matter where you are in the vibration spectrum, know that it's exactly where you're meant to be. If you are feeling depressed, it doesn't mean that you're not spiritual. It just means that you're human. It just means that you still have some thoughts or belief holding you back from reaching your full potential. And that's okay. Acknowledge where you are right now and then learn to move towards the spiritual perspective. Spiritual awakening doesn't give you permanent residence in the high vibration. You definitely fall back to the lower vibration now and then. And the goal isn't to stay up there in the high vibe forever and avoid the low vibe completely. If you try to do that, it's no different from people in the middle range distracting themselves with TV, substances, or materialism to avoid the negative emotion. You're just using your spiritual knowledge as a way to bypass those negative emotions instead of truly facing them. What you need to do after spiritual awakening is to be aware of where you are at vibrationally and move towards the spiritual perspective the best that you can. It's not where you are in terms of vibration that is the most important. It's the direction you're heading towards that is the most important. Are you going towards the spiritual perspective, the higher vibration, or are you resisting or going against the spiritual perspective, staying in the lower vibration or moving down the vibrational scale? Are you aware of your thoughts and beliefs that are blocking you from feeling the love, freedom, and joy that you already are? When you are feeling depressed and experiencing a dark night of the soul, it will be too huge to jump from the lowest vibration to the highest vibration. It's not impossible, but it's rare. When you're feeling depressed and spiritual people who are in high vibrational state share their wisdom with you, you'll be more likely to think what kind of crap and nonsense they're talking about. You'll be pissed off. When you are feeling depressed, don't demand yourself to be that loving and connected being because you'll not be able to see the spiritual perspective clearly in the vibrational state that you're in. It's actually more helpful to be angry because anger shifts you towards the spiritual perspective. Let me explain. When I was depressed during my first dark night of the soul, what truly helped me was anger. I was promised a job by someone who later didn't have the money to hire me, and I felt rather betrayed. But being the nice, empathetic guy, I tried to think in terms of the other person. I know he didn't do it deliberately. He's facing financial problem in his company too. But Doing so, I pushed my emotion down. I pushed down my anger, and I felt depressed for over a month. When you don't acknowledge your emotion and suppress them, you end up in depression. When you don't get to blame others, you blame yourself. At that time, I felt so stupid for trusting him. My mind was like, I should have known better. Like, how could you believe him so easily? I was lost and not knowing what to do. I tried to find another job, but the fear of making the same mistake gave me panic attacks, and it kept me depressed for over a month. It wasn't until a month later when I remember what I have learned previously. Anger is of a higher vibration than depression. So when I was alone in my house one day, I locked myself up, turned the music up, and started screaming at the top of my lungs and punching my pillow. I was angry at the person for over-promising. I was mad at myself for not listening to my intuition. And I was so sick of being depressed. And after that emotional outburst, I actually felt instant relief. When I finally gave myself the permission to feel angry, my depression was somewhat gone. I no longer felt fatigued or unmotivated to do anything. I stopped having insomnia or panic attacks. I was in a vengeful mode, like I'm going to find a better job than what I was promised. I know feeling angry doesn't sound or feel very spiritual, but I'm not saying you should vent your anger on someone else and be destructive. You can always direct your anger to something more constructive, like how I use that energy to search for a new job. But when you feel depressed, that's what you need. That's the direction you need to go. Anger is just a passageway, a path you need to pass through to reach a higher vibration. When I allow myself to feel angry, I move from feeling depressed to anger. Then I felt restless and irritated for a bit. And by the second month, I had my first spiritual awakening. I was at a park and I was in such deep contentment and appreciation, and I have felt a deep connection with the universe. And I suddenly had this strong passion and purpose to write my second book. Compared to depression, anger is a step towards the right direction. At least with anger, it gets you into action. It gives you more power, more energy, and more momentum than depression. It's definitely better than lying in bed all day feeling low and helpless. Of course, having said that, don't stay in anger. Feel all the negative emotion you need to feel, like insecurity, jealousy, and shame, but don't stay in this vibrational state. Always look for the next better feeling thought that you can reach that is within your vibrational range. And when you reach contentment, you are already in a very good place. You don't have to go further to like joy, love, and freedom because you already reached a vibrational state where you can start to hear the spirit perspective more clearly. The key is to move through all your negative emotion to get to the spirit perspective. It's much harder to jump from the lowest vibration all the way up to the highest vibration and bypass all the negative emotion. When you're jumping around the vibrational scale like this, you're like jumping on a trampoline. You reach the peak very quickly, but you also don't stay up there very long. You come back down just as fast. This happens to a lot of people in the middle vibrational range. They feel happy when they get a promotion or go for a holiday or buy their dream house, but that happiness doesn't last very long. Before they know it, something negative happens and they feel down again, or they feel impatient or pessimistic. It's because they're jumping on this trampoline. What you need is a staircase. What you need is a stable, grounded vibration. After spiritual awakening, even though you have a full spectrum of vibrational range, you actually don't move up and down the vibrational scale that much. Because when I start to move down, I can see and feel that I'm moving away from my spirit connection. I have that emotional awareness. And I know that I must be thinking something in a negative way that's preventing me from feeling good. And my spirit has a totally different perspective of what I'm thinking right now. And I can then quickly just adjust my thinking, let go of any outdated belief I have, change the direction and pivot. And if I slip into the lower vibration, I know I could get out of it pretty quickly because I practiced the high vibration long enough. I've been there long enough to know the difference between the narrative of the ego and the spirit. Once you understand the bigger picture, you won't look at depression or a lack of motivation as a curse anymore. You will realize they are just layers to peel back, helping you get closer to your true self. You will learn to embrace both the light and the dark, and you wouldn't fear tough, dark night of the soul moments. Talking about negative emotion to others won't scare you because you know you won't throw you off balance. But at the same time, you won't dwell on the darkness too much because deep down, you know that that's not who you truly are. You know the dark moments are more like a spiritual teacher saying, hey, you're going the wrong direction. Try to go the other way instead. And you start to connect different spiritual disciplines like shadow work, non-duality, and the law of attraction all together to see the bigger picture, and everything will start to make more sense. And if you're wondering how long it takes to get out of the dark night or so, you can watch this next video.